Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another video. In this one, I'll be bringing to you a basic sub-rogue guide, just breaking down the spec in its bare bones form, giving you guys all the information that you need to kind of get started. This is definitely not a spec that you can kind of pick up and do insanely well with instantly, unless you kind of know what you're doing from maybe a different class, or if you're already pretty high experience, you can kind of pick Rogue up and kind of have an idea of what you're doing. But you're definitely going to have to put in some practice, have a bit of patience with this one. But trust me, it is very, very rewarding once you kind of get the hang of things. But yeah, we'll just be going over a ton of stuff here, so just buckle up and let's get right into this one. Okay, so starting off with races. Now, with Dragonflight, every race can be a rogue, but there are definitely races that are better than others. So we'll start off with Alliance. I would say that the three viable races that you can play as Alliance are Human, Night Elf, and Dark Iron Dwarf. Now, from top to from the best to worst, I would say it'll be Night Elf, then Human, than Dark Iron Dwarf. That would be my personal opinion. Now, the reason why Night Elf would probably be my best pick is just because obviously you have Shadow Meld. That is the core reason why a lot of people do go Night Elf. Um, you can use it in a variety of ways. You can use it to meld CC like Stormbolt, for example. You can use it to get a when you need it. You can meld kidney shots. You can do so much with Shadow Meld. It just really is only limited by your imagination and how well that you can actually put that ratio to work. Um, on top of that, you're more difficult to hit. You move faster when dead. Resistance to nature damage. You move faster when you're stealth, and obviously at night you have faster attacks and increased crit during the day. Now, moving on to human. Now, human is a pretty good race. I'm not gonna lie. You do have a ratio that gets you out of stun effects on a 3 minute cooldown. You do have also um, increased haste, crit, mastery, and versatility. That will be all your secondary stats. So you'll be hitting a little bit harder, critting a bit more often, and having a bit more verse as well. 2%, which is not too bad. And pretty much that's it. I would say human is a close second. It definitely has its merits. You can always pair a normal PvP trinket along with your racial, and then cycle through those two on a 1 minute or 1 minute 30 CD each, and just roll from there. It definitely is a good race. And then last but not least, we've got a Dark Iron Dwarf, or if you don't have Dark Iron Dwarf unlocked, you can just go normal Dwarf. Now, with Dark Iron Dwarf, your racial basically removes every single effect on you. Magical, disease, bleed, you name it. Everything just disappears. And on top of that, for 6 seconds after you press your racial, you will receive a buff that gives you more main stat depending on how many dots or effects that your racial removed. So it's definitely good for a more offensive kind of playstyle of Rogue, where you can remove dots and then do awesome damage afterwards. But just keep in mind that once you use your racial, your PvP trinket will be on cooldown for 30 seconds, and the same for dwarf. Now its stone form racial does remove dots. It doesn't remove magic, but it does remove poison, bleeds. I'm not sure about diseases either, but it doesn't give the effect of increasing your main stat by how many effects it removes. It just gives you a flat physical damage buff, so that's pretty nice as well. So, and that's gonna be the three main races for Alliance. Moving on to Horde, you really only have one race I would recommend, which is Orc. Now, Orc is if you play Shadowlands, you would know that Orc was very prevalent back then. because of its resistance to stuns. Now that is also a really good reason to play Orc at the moment, as you have 5% more stun reduction than everyone else because your hardiness gives you a 20% stun reduction effect passively, so that's pretty nice. And then on top of that, you have Blood Fury, which increases your attack power, sorry, by X amount. I can't recall how much it is, unfortunately, but does help a lot when doing your big burst. So that's always pretty nice. I don't recommend going for any other races on Horde. You could argue maybe Blood Elf for like a magic buff removal against mages. You can kind of cheese it all the time, something like that. But or even undead maybe with their ability to remove charm, fear, and sleep effects. But again, this racial shares cooldown with your trinket, and so if you kind of will have forsaken of a fear, for example, your trinket will go on a 30-second cooldown, and then you're open to just being pretty dead. So I think that's gonna be it for the races, and then we're gonna move on to the talents. Okay, so for talents, there are only two build styles that are currently meta at the moment, and those are the CDR build and the Big Damn build. Now, there are different variations to both of those builds that you can kind of change. I'll go ahead and show you very quickly. So with the CDR build, this will be okay. One second. This will kind of be the main build that people play. Um, Obviously, you can definitely change some things depending on how you want to play. You could take the point out of Weapon Master and put it into quick decisions if you want. I like Weapon Master because of the Rotten critting your Shadow Strike after you press symbols of death. And obviously it has a chance to proc again and hit twice, and it just helps with damage. And so you can definitely change that if you want. On the left side here, what you also could change, we go down to deeper strat normally. You could take off the points here and go down to resounding clarity if you wanted, and you would kind of have a an opener like you're playing big damn build. I'll go through the rotations on the burst rotations for every build a little bit later in the video, but just for now I'm just going to show you how the points are placed, so you guys can obviously pause this and kind of copy this. I'll try and leave the codes down in the description for you guys as well to make it easier. But yeah, so that's pretty much the CDR build right there. And if we want to take a look at the big damn build, it's pretty much what you see on screen right now. So we're taking a lot of the damage modifying talents. We're taking Vile Touch, which increases magic damage by 5%. We're going down to Dark Brew, which increases shadow damage by 10%, as well as turning any nature or bleed damage into shadow damage. So it makes your rupture into shadow and makes it makes it hit 10% harder. So that's pretty nice. We go down to finality, which makes it so that once you eviscerate, your next eviscerate will be 30% more powerful. Taking deeper daggers, which increases your shadow damage dealt by 16% after you use eviscerate or black powder. And then the rest is kind of standard, pretty much. And then we're also going down to resounding clarity on this build as well, just using it as another modifier for Dance Macabre. If you don't know how Dance Macabre works, pretty much when you dance, you will get a stack of Dance Macabre right here. And then every ability that you use that generates or spends combo points will give you a stack of that Dance Macabre. So you're kind of just building it up and then hitting Secret Technique when you have maximum stacks that you can obviously do once the target is stunned. And again, I'll go and show you guys exactly what the rotation looks like a little bit later in the video. But that pretty much brings builds to an end. And now we're going to move on to some PvP talents. Okay, so when it comes to PvP talents, this is my default loadout. Um, so I have Smoke Bomb, I have Disarm, and I have Shadowy Duel. The one that you change out on a matchup basis would probably be Disarm. Obviously, if you're into a comp that you can't disarm or disarm doesn't really get value, like a spell cleave, you change Disarm for either maneuverability or silhouette. Now, obviously, if you don't know what these do, maneuverability removes all root effects that you're currently in, and then for 4 seconds after that, it makes you immune to any slow movement slowing effects. And then silhouette just makes it so that Shadow Step's cooldown is reduced by 67% when used on a friendly target. So it's really good to kind of kite cleaves like jungle. Jungle is a very very good comp in threes to play silhouette into, because you can just, after you do a go, you can just step to your healer, kind of kite for a little bit, and then step back out once you have a charge back. It is really powerful. Even in twos, into Feral Druids as well. This is really powerful. You can just make sure that you're telling your teammate to kind of stay not max range, but in a range where he's far from the feral, and then you can step to him, kind of kite, and do what you have to do after that. So this is a very underrated talent, if you ask me. An honorary mention as well is Thieves Bargain. Now this talent does not work currently. Well, it works but doesn't, and I'll explain what I mean. So the tooltip says the cooldowns of Shadowy Blades, Vanish, and Faint are reduced by 33%, but using one reduces your damage by 10% for 6 seconds. Now, this doesn't work in the sense that the cooldowns of the spells shown do not get reduced by 33% or at all, in fact, but you do get a debuff for 10% less damage when you use any of these abilities if you're playing Thieves Bargain. I think once this is fixed, this could be a talent that could see some play potentially, but for now, I wouldn't recommend using it. It just doesn't work. And that'll be it for PvP talents. Now we'll move on to stat priority. Okay, so when it comes to stat priority as a sub rogue, it's very simple. You just want as much mastery as humanly possible. So the reason why is because, if you didn't know, sub rogue mastery increases the damage done by your finishing moves by however much mastery that you have. Now this buffs stuff like your Eviscerate, your secret technique, your rupture. It just gives you damage on your actual damage. So having mastery is very important. Everything else takes the back seat. You just want to get as much mastery as you can, and pretty much that is it for stat priority. We're going to move on to how to gear. Okay, so when it comes to gearing your sub rogue, you just want to follow the stat priority, which is again mastery. That's it. So you just want to get as many pieces with mastery on it. That is your main focus. Now I'll talk about the set bonus very quickly, the 2/4 set. Am I running it? I'm running 2 set. Yes. I'm not running 4 set. Now, the reason why is I'll just show you very quickly. So the 2 set reads: Eviscerate and Black Powder increase the damage and critical strike chance of your next backstab, Shadowstrike, or Shuriken Storm by 2% per combo point spent. And the 4 set reads: Backstab, Shadowstrike, and Shuriken Storm critical strikes increase the damage of Eviscerate and Rupture by 12%, and the damage of Black Powder by 8% for 3 seconds. Now, the reason I'm not running the 4 set is because, well, one, it's not that powerful. So the first condition is that you have to crit your backstab, Shadowstrike, or Shuriken Storm for this effect to take place, and it's only a 12% buff as well. So not only do you have to crit something, um, you only get a 12% buff and it's only active for 3 seconds. So it doesn't give you much time to utilize that buff off a very, very minimal condition of critting something. Now, obviously, if you are playing the CDR build and you're playing the Rotten, then you're gonna get those crit shadow strikes on every symbol after every symbols of death, which is very nice combo. But the second reason why I don't run the 4 set is because you lose quite a bit of mastery. So the best slots for this 4 set would be your helm, your chest, your legs, and I believe the gloves or your shoulders, sorry, your shoulders as well. Now, the shoulders give haste verse and the legs give crit verse. Now, what's the problem with that? The problem is that you're not getting mastery. You're losing mastery with those pieces. And it does not fit very well with how Sub Rogue plays. It needs mastery to do damage, and you're losing mastery for a conditional bonus of 12% more damage for 3 seconds. You know, it doesn't it really does not, it's not worth it pretty much. So I am running the 2 set of the helm and the chest. The chest gives insane amounts of mastery, which is really good for sub. The helm doesn't give as much mastery as the the PvP helm. So obviously you're losing a little bit there, but not too much. Um, and pretty much yeah, everything else outside of the set bonus, you're going for mastery. So I'll just go through each individual piece. So for the helm, I'm using the tier set helm. For the neck, I'm using the verse mastery neck. I'm using the crit verse shoulders, the verse mastery cape, the tier set chest, the Drake Breakers bracers with mastery. I'm using both Drake Breaker shivs that give mastery on them. Using the verse mastery gloves, using the Drake Breakers waist, the PvP legs verse mastery, and I'm using the tier set boots that give mastery as well. I'm not using the 5% boots. 5% is quite minimal, and you know, like I said before, mastery. You want mastery. You just want mastery. Just get as much mastery as you can. Now, obviously, you don't have to get the vault boots if you really want the 5% extra CT reduction. Then by all means go for it. But personally, I like having the extra mastery. For the ring, I'm using the honor, not the honor ring, the auction house ring, that gives verse mastery, and I'm using the PvP conquest ring that gives verse mastery as well. Now, once I get a socket for my honor ring, the honor ring will be better. But if you don't have a socket in your honor ring, this ring will be slightly better. It won't make a huge difference, but this ring will be the better ring in air quotes. And then obviously I have my PV trinket and then my on use badge of ferocity as my second trinket slot. And pretty much that will cover all the gear. We're gonna move on to the gems. Okay, so when it comes to gemming your sub rogue, you again just want to go for mastery pretty much. Now, there are 2 ways that you can gem at the moment. You can go for the, actually, let me just make my way to the auction house very quickly so I can show you guys the name at least, so you can just search for that if you don't know what it's called. So there are 2 ways to gem your sub rogue. The first way is to go for high mastery, low verse gems. If I can just quickly find that. Where is it? It should be around here somewhere. Yeah, so it will be the Zen Nelthorite gem. that you're looking for that gives you 70 mastery and 33 verse. And the second way to gem is to go for pure mastery, which is what I'm doing because I am just a fiend. I just love mastery. I love having a lot of mastery. So the second one you need is fractured Nelthorite, and that will give you plus 88 mastery. And obviously you want to make sure that you have the 3 sockets in your neck. If you don't know how to do this, you go to item enhancements, you go to neck, search. Then you want to buy the tiered medallion setting. You'll need 2 of the rank 2s and then 1 rank 3. And then you should be able to get 3 sockets in your neck that you can add extra gems into. Then obviously you can gem your helm, your bracers, your waist, and your rings with the I can't remember what it's called from the guy next to the vault that you can exchange for your weekly token, your token thing. But yeah, that's pretty much gonna be gems all covered, and we'll move on to enchants. So when it comes to your enchants, it's pretty simple. There, I'll show you what I personally run first of all, but and then I'll show you what else you can play instead of some of the enchants that I have. So we'll start from the cloak. I play homebound speed. On the chest, I play accelerated agility. On the braces, I play plus 200 speed. On the boot, on the not the boots, on the legs, I have the fierce armor kit. On the feet, I have the plains runner's breeze. On my rings, I have just plus 82 mastery. On my weapons, I have earthen writ. Now, the slots that you can kind of change if you don't like the ones that I picked is your cloak, your daggers, and I think that'll be it. So the alternatives that you have available to you on your cloak, if I could find it. So most people, I believe, play homebound speed and they play regenerative leech. So if you don't like homebound speed, which increases your speed by 125 and reduces the cooldown of your hearthstone by 5 minutes, don't really care about that one. If you don't like this one, you can go for the regenerative leech, which increases your leech by 125 and also heals you for 11,674 every 5 seconds out of combat. It just comes down to personal preference and what you like more. Now, the other option that you have is on your weapons. So I play Earthen Writ. If you don't know what that does, it basically increases your mastery by 1,394 for 3 seconds, just randomly as you're attacking and using your abilities. Or you can play the Sophic Writ. Let's try that. Sophic Writ, which just increases your primary stat flat. So you'll be doing just more damage in general. Now, the argument for playing one or the other, personally, mastery just increases all your damage pretty much. It increases, like I said before, it increases your eviscerate damage, your secret technique damage, your rupture damage. It won't affect anything like Shadowstrike and backstab. But those Shadowstrike does do a fair bit of damage, so you could argue Sophic Writ is actually better because it will just buff your overall damage. But I just love mastery. What can I say? It's just personal preference, to be completely honest. But you guys can choose whatever you want for your rogue if you prefer having the Earthen Writ, the mastery, or Sophic Writ, the main stat. So I think that will cover pretty much everything for this segment, and then we'll move on to the bills. Okay, so in this section, I'll just be going over the rotation to do the most damage in your big go windows in each spec. I've got a buddy here helping me with this, so shout out to him. So in this first demonstration, I'll be using the CDR build, and I'll just go ahead and show you what that looks like in practice. So I'll just Shadow Blaze to build up combo points quickly, and I'll wait just a little bit for my energy to come back. So you would Kidney, Symbols, Shadowstrike, Secret Tech, Evis, and you're just doing a lot of damage, pretty much. So again, it's just Kidney, Symbols, Shadowstrike, Secret Tech, and then from there you just kind of Shadowstriking and Evising and making sure that you don't gap your stuns. Not gapping your stuns is very, very important, as you're normally playing with another DPS who has a lot of damage, or a healer who's doing damage as well. So keeping a target locked down, will be your number one priority. So again, one more time, it will be a Kidney, Symbols, Shadowstrike, Cold Blood, Secret Tech, Shadowstrike Evis until you have to reset again, pretty much. So I'll go ahead and just change specs here to the big dam build, and I'll show you what that looks like with that one. One more. Give me 30. Okay, so in this next demonstration, this will be for the big dam build. Now the rotation is just a little bit different, and I'll show you what I mean in a second here. So I'll go ahead and duel my boy. So I'll just pre-pop Blade just to get a fast kidney. Now, basically, what you want to do is actually you don't even need to have a kidney built up. You would just dance, Gouge, Kidney, Symbols, Shadowstrike, Evis, Kyrian, Secret Tech, and then the guy just should pretty much be dead. And essentially after your Secret Tech, you pretty much need to restun straight away, as you're using pretty much every single global in that kidney to kind of set up and send this damage. So just to go over that one more time, it will be a Dance, Gouge, Kidney, Symbols, Shadowstrike, Evis, Kyrian, Cold Blood, Secret Tech. And that will give you some amazing damage, especially if the target is not plate. Into leather classes, into cloth classes, you absolutely shred people. Into mail, you can still do very good damage, but it won't be as good as on cloth and leather, obviously. Now, this rotation will be the exact same if you're playing the CDR build, going down here instead of going down to deeper strat, as you will kind of have a bit more modifiers for your BUQAAWulQAmRd, so you'll be having an even bigger Secret Tech. And that will pretty much cover all the basics that you need to know when it comes to setting up a sub rogue, and just kind of getting it started to go into arena or whatever you're going to do on that spec when it comes to PvP. But I hope you guys kind of enjoyed this one. I kind of freestyled this. So please do let me know if I miss anything. I'll be more than happy to go over things in the comments if you need. But I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.